All right. What is going on, everybody? This is Filling the Storehouse podcast, episode I don't know, but it's the beginning of January 2021, and we are pumped to have two amazing guests on today, both from our favorite state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin, where you get a lot of cheese and brats and
beer, spotted cow.
That is our favorite.
Good stuff. It's good stuff.
Today we have Mary Manthei and Nina Ferraro.
Ferraro.
Boldly & Co. And I would tell you that the steps and the actions that I have taken personally from your business has been instrumental to just really my sanity, honestly. So I greatly appreciate the both of you. And I really want to get into your story, the background of where you guys came from. And hopefully we can bring some amazing value to our listeners today, because there's some action steps we want to get to for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do it.
David, do you have anything to say, or
no? You pretty much took it all. Yes. We are turning a new leaf on the show today. We wanted to try to stay away from making fun of you, at least to begin with. I don't know if it's going to be possible. Actually, I will venture to say that it would be impossible. But I think I'm super excited about today. I've been communicating with Nina and Mary for quite a while now. We had met through just some other Navy conversations. I was in a webinar that they were running, and then through their 7-figure flipping, and now we're going through their course, and they're just amazing women. I think super excited about the program that they run, the coaching they offer, and just who they are as humans. And the accents are going to be spot on. It's going to be awesome. And I know that my mother's side and my wife's entire family will appreciate the don't you knows and the boots and the boats and the, oh geez. So I don't know if it's going to be like that, but I hope so.
You'll get a lot of yeah, no, yes.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh yeah.
Well, Mary, Nina,
excited.
Over to you both. If you could just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and kind of why Boldly & Co. now.
Yeah. So, well, I'm Nina, and Mary, you want to let your voice be heard?
I am Mary.
So within our company, I am very big and loud, and Mary is very beautifully balanced. So we make a great team that way.
That's kind of same. That's kind of same with David and I. David is big and loud and obnoxious, and I'm beautifully, whatever you said.
No, he doesn't. You're
beautifully balanced.
Beautifully balanced.
Dumb. You're beautifully dumb is what you are. I'm beautifully whatever you just said. Great. Yeah. See, Stu, you don't allow me. You don't allow me not to make fun of you. But anyways, back to you, Nina.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, Nina.
No problem. So we are both from Kenosha, Wisconsin, and we actually went to kindergarten together, and we were kindergarten besties. And then we went to different schools and our lives grew apart. And I had come up with this idea for Boldly & Co., which we'll get into in a bit. And as adults, Mary and I found out that our husbands played hockey together growing up their entire lives. And they just have this hockey and locker room bond that has never left. And so they said, hey, let's get together as couples. And I said, oh, I already know Ryan's wife, Mary. So we got together and we started talking about business, and I started sharing my idea, and she said, I'm on board. So we got back together as adults and formed a company together. But Boldly & Co. is a company that is centered around helping people and businesses. So you could be a person who's looking to advance your career, be better in your career, achieve a goal, or you could be somebody who has a business idea or has an established business. And what we do is we help people think a little bit differently about how they organize and focus and plan and take action. So the biggest part about our business is about taking action. And, what we found is businesses, people, you can be a competitor, you can be an achiever, you can be amazing, you can be so smart, but we're not necessarily taught how to plan and how to be strategic and how to take action in the most effective way. It seems like you either have that skill or you don't. And so we've kind of come along and said, no, you can be taught that skill and be shown how to do that skill and be held accountable to it. And we have the tools and the coaching to do that. So.
Yeah, Mary, I'm kind of curious, from your perspective as well. Like, Stu and I have been talking, and you hit a couple key themes there, Nina. But one, we're huge on taking action. That's something that Stu and I talk about all the time. We are, you can analyze something to death, and then at some point take action. You're going to learn lessons from that, and you're going to take more action. But Mary, I'm curious. We also talk a lot about partnerships, and I mean, it seems like, the way it's framed, you guys had this relationship, you guys came together years later, but I imagine there was probably a lot of discourse back and forth, a lot of setting boundaries, terms, roles and responsibilities, and all that, or maybe not. I'm just kind of curious how that went.
I will say that Nina and I are we like to roll with our instincts. We both trust our instincts, and we're both fairly go with the flow. And so we have sort of let our partnership morph into what it needs to be at different times. We didn't set out with very distinct roles. We were like, let's see what happens. Let's keep getting together and reassessing and what we need to adjust and pivot with. And that's just sort of how we roll with it, is that we morph as our company morphs.
Yeah. And I would say, like, I've had other business partnerships in real estate investing, and I have many cautionary tales about how important it is to really vet partners and make sure you know who you're working with and things like that. In this case, I think Mary and I knew each other's characters and knew each other's the great things about each other. And we were very honest about the tough things about ourselves that we each needed to be aware of. And I feel like we've allowed each other to be who we are. And I think that's been helpful. The other thing is we are both in roles that are very well suited to our personalities. And I've never had that in another company. And so I think that's kind of where the great balance comes into play for us.
I think that's super important and needs to really be kind of understood really from the get-go of kind of creating a partnership like that. I see David and I in very similar roles as the two of you as far as personalities go. David is the kind of the outgoing squirrel that just gets distracted all the time, which I'm super excited to have this conversation today because I think it's going to really help him. This podcast is really just for him. So
it's a coaching session.
It's a coaching session.
We set this up. Free coaching. That's awesome.
That's really the reason that we have these podcasts, is just to coach David. But he's kind of the big, passionate, big idea type person. 80,000 foot view, and then I'm kind of I'm the engineer. I like the checklists. I like the spreadsheets. I'm kind of the nitty gritty, looking at the details. But it works well when we come together and we know our roles and we kind of work it out. And
yeah, you need those two personalities too. You need somebody who's creative and has a billion ideas because, maybe most of them won't stick or it's not the right time, but one of them will, and it'll be that $1 million idea. So and then you also need the person who's more tactical and practical and analytical. It's like that combination has to exist. So
yeah. And I think what works for us too is we tend to be creative in different ways. And so, Nina is the visionary. She is that dreamer, whereas I'm more like, whoa, is that real world? Is that practical? But then I am the visual creative, and I will go off on a tangent and tell her all these things that we could create. And she's like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. So we, you know, I think that is beneficial for us, is that we definitely have a yin yang sort of dynamic. And yes, to Nina's point, we did have the benefit of, we knew each other as children. So there was some pre-vetting for the partnership.
Yeah.
You know what else is interesting is also our families knew each other. Like we knew each, and it's interesting. We're not from Kenosha. I feel like you just don't know what I'm talking about here, but from our hometown, we have generations and generations and generations and generations of families that all grew up together. And so even though Kenosha's, you know, I think well over 100,000 people now, I mean, it's not a small, teeny, tiny town, but it's still like everybody knows each other. So we did kind of know each other's like familial backgrounds and all that kind of stuff. So it was, and we knew who each other hung with, you know, we knew each other's crowd, and that was helpful. So
knew each other's boyfriends in high school. I'm like, oh man, I'm glad with that, not with that guy anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, you did hit on one thing though that I love, and I think, and it's really interesting. It's very timely because Stu and I had a conversation with some potential future partners last night. But one of the things that I'm huge on, that I spent a lot of time, and Stu and I spent a lot of time cultivating, but also discussing before we did a single deal, was that character piece that you're talking about. And knowing what each other's going to do in a tough situation, and understanding what's important, you know, what drives each of you. And if those things are in sync, then you can start a business and you can drive it in a direction and achieve great things. If those are not, and you're 180 out, and not that it's bad, one is good and one is not, but if those values and character are not aligned, it's not going to survive. So I think it was really interesting that you said that. And I think people really need to take stock of that, because our conversation yesterday, you know, Stu, we talked through a couple deals, but we didn't talk a lot of numbers. What we really spent a lot of time was, hey, do we see ourselves enjoying each other's company? Do we see ourselves in line with, when it comes down to a tough decision, are our characters aligned in a way that we're going to make a decision that's beneficial for that honors ourselves and what's important to us, but also honors the business and our clients and the people that we are trying to serve. And I think that's a huge point that you hit on, is you can be vastly different human beings, like Stu and I are, like you two are. But if your character is in alignment, I mean, you can accomplish great things.
Yeah. You know, it helps too. Like, I feel like Mary and I have a lot of interests that are the same outside of business. And we have a lot of other things to talk about other than business. You know, we love talking about politics. We love talking about the hard stuff, even if we disagree on it. It's like, you know, that was in other business experiences I've had, that's been missing. It's either been all business, or it's, you know, or it's just, we're totally out of alignment personality wise. And so it's just a great mix.
Yeah, I think our wives get jealous because we probably talk to each other sometimes like multiple times a day. And maybe our wives don't get that many opportunities to talk to us on a regular basis. And so I think sometimes our wives get jealous of us.
Oh yeah. Well, Mary and I go on an app called Marco Polo, which is a video app. Yeah. And we're like, I'm always like, I'm the Marco Polo and she's Marco Poloing me. And our husbands are like trying to like talk to each other in the background on the Marco Polo. We're like, get away.
No, my kids will just come in and they'll be like, oh, you're talking to Nina, aren't you?
That's so funny. That's so funny. Awesome. Yeah, we were doing the Marco Polo, but I found that we were getting so far behind because we're, you know, behind the original message. We're like, dude, let's just make a phone call, because
you know, we'd be like, you know, you can do those like color, you can write on the screens and the different like sounds and voices. Our kids would get on and make like the robot voice and stuff like that.
Completely inefficient use of time
waste. Yeah. That goes totally against everything that you guys are
everything you preach. I'm actually kind of shocked that you guys use that. Yeah. Hey, so I'm kind of curious too, just if you don't mind giving us a quick, you know, we can start with you, Mary, a quick, just a rundown of your background and kind of what your life was before you guys came into this partnership and started doing this thing, just to give some context to who you are.
Yeah. Well, as you all know by now, we are both from Kenosha. And I went to UW-Madison, as did Nina. I got a degree in graphic design and women's studies. And then I began my career working I worked in different marketing departments of large organizations, and then also at a boutique marketing firm before I decided to branch off on my own. So I have been my own boss for several years, and I love it. And I hope to never go back to being someone else's employee. And when Nina pitched Boldly & Co. to me, it just sounded like the right next step based on where I came from and where I want to go.
Woohoo.
Awesome. Nina, another Badger.
Another Badger.
Badgers.
Yeah, so my background, actually, I got a degree in marketing. I can like barely remember now. I'm like, what was my degree in? Marketing. And I always saw myself as somebody that was in like advertising or coming up with like creative campaigns and things like that. And I was recruited by a healthcare technology company called Epic. And I'm like 22, 21 at the time. I'm like, I don't know anything about healthcare. I don't know anything about technology, but I don't have to be a genius to be like, those are two industries never going away. So I went through and got into this company called Epic, and it's a huge, huge company now, a multi-billion-dollar private company that's worldwide. And it was an eye-opening experience, one of the hardest experiences I've ever had, but one of the most growth-oriented experiences. And their motto was kind of like, come here and you don't have to know about healthcare or tech. We'll grow you to know about healthcare and tech. What we need from you is the right personality, the right intelligence, the right this, that, and the other. And so they had their hiring system down to such a science. And when I find other people now who used to work at Epic with me, and we were in the same type of roles, we are clones of each other. And it's just so smart. But anyhow, I was in healthcare technology. I was a consultant and I traveled nationwide for 13 years. And I loved it because I was good at it, not because I actually enjoyed it. I think my ego and pride got in the way for many, many years of me. I never really understood that I wasn't happy. I was chasing lots of accolades and promotions, and the money was great. And I thought, wow, what a great life, but the reality was I had no life. I just worked, and I worked for money, and I gave up everything else around me. And that was kind of the start of All Things Boldly, was this realization that you can work and work and work, but really not have any kind of life. So that's where it started.
That's so important to what David and I are all about is, we have our active duty military jobs. We have this business that we're building and trying to create. We have multiple adventures inside of that business. We have multiple partnerships and ideas and thoughts and hopes and goals. We both have families, young kids, and it's a lot. And there are times where David and I are both just completely overwhelmed with our checklists and to-do items and emails, and I'm up at 4 a.m. every single morning trying to knock out stuff before I go do my Navy job, and same as David. And then, we're burning the candle at both ends. And at some point you sit back and you realize you're like, man, I never do fun stuff, or I never get to hang out with my family and spend time with them. And so, David and I have really taken a look at that and trying to figure out what's important. And David and I've done some serious soul searching just this past year of really where we want to be. And honestly, taking some of the action steps that the two of you recommend, and going through the course, through the 7-figure flipping community that we're a part of, has been amazing. It's been eye-opening, and so, taking these recommendations and putting them into action, and time blocking and finding your zones, and shutting down all of your distractions, all that stuff has been a game changer for me, at least. David, still we need to work on, so that's why we're having this call. So if we could, can we just kind of get into this coaching session for David?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, cool. So where can we start with David to kind of get him aligned and down the same path?
Let's start at why we do the things that we do. So within Boldly. So what I found was, when I was in the corporate world, I was just reacting all day to my life. That's all I was doing, was reacting. And I stopped understanding what I was even working for. I don't know that I ever knew what I was working for. I just did what I thought I was supposed to be doing in life, and making my, family and myself proud. And that was about it. And how we start when we work with any of our clients within Boldly is we ask everybody to start with the creation of a life vision. And usually, right, there's all these steps down the road in this system that we have that gets geared then towards your business. But the start is about your life and the vision you have for your life. And the reason that we do that is because that's what's motivating. That's what's inspiring. That's what's dreamy. That's what, when you go through hard days in your life, in your business and family, it's the recollection of that life vision and what you're working for and why you're working for it that keeps you going and keeps you on the right path. So we start with that. And David, do you have a life vision?
I do. And, and I think what's super interesting is what you highlight there. And if anybody who gets the notebook or I'm sorry, the planner, or listens to anything that you guys put out, you have the full will, right? The holistic person that has all the different aspects of what makes a person, what drives towards that vision, and the physical part of it, the community, the time, all the stuff that makes you who you are and what is important. And I love that aspect, that approach that you highlight, because what it really helps people understand, and sometimes people I don't think they take stock of that, right? They get stuck in the cycle of, like, for you, it was making money and the pride piece of it. For a lot of our network, a lot of our folks, it's the service part of it. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like I need to dedicate no less than 10 to 12 hours a day to my sailors, or else I'm not really doing my job well. Right. Is that really true? Is that really, because you have these kids at home and you have your wife, you have these other things, these relationships, friends, family, all the will, right? You have your community, all the things that are so important. And a lot of times we emphasize the parts that, when you really boil it down, like in a year or so, Stu and I are going to be out of the military. If our entire personalities, our vision and our meaning and our purpose and our why is based off of military service and the identity we get through being a CO, an XO, a naval officer, that goes away like that in one day. Yeah. One day you're in uniform and the next day you're out of uniform. You're retired. Nobody cares who you were. They don't care that your signature block says, commanding officer, retired, or whatever it says. Nobody cares. And then you're lost. So I think that the approach that you guys highlight is so important, and what sets you apart from other companies and even planners is that you force that process. So I went through the entire thing. You fill out all your goals and the visions, and for every aspect of your life, and it's so key. And I'm curious, like, was it just a realization that you were missing out on so much of life with the singular focus that you had, that really drove you guys to develop that will?
Yes. So When I was in the corporate world and starting to get involved in real estate and then having children and being married, and, I set out to do all the things that I was capable of as a single individual and was chasing all these things so hard because I was like, well, I know I'm capable of doing them. But I forgot, like, well, wait, I have a whole life I have to really pay attention to now. So for me in the corporate world, I was working 70, 80 hours a week. I did not, I felt an immense amount of guilt if I was not working 70, 80 hours a week. And what was happening was I was doing well at work, but I was failing in every other area of my life. And kind of embarrassingly, but you know what, I'm not embarrassed about it, but when I was in the corporate world, there was definitely a point where I thought, I think I'm going to have a mental breakdown. I don't know how to sustain this level of stress. And I felt like I was going to kind of like freak out at any moment. Someone would say something as simple as like, how are you? And I would be like, just all my emotions onto the surface. I felt like I could cry at any minute. I was angry all the time. And I didn't realize I was living at like this fight or flight mode just every day. And I made that a very normal mode of operation for myself. And when I got to this point of being like, I think I'm really going to have a breakdown, I realized I had no friends to really talk to because I wasn't paying attention to any relationships in my life. I wasn't healthy. I didn't focus on my, body and moving my body and feeding my body and brain well. Like my whole life was work. And so I had to get back to this point where I was like, wait a second, I have a whole life and that needs to be paid attention to. And if I do my whole life well, I can excel at work and do that in far less time. So that was kind of like the start of the idea behind Boldly, is that you have to pay attention to your whole life in order to be great at what you want to achieve.
I think there's so many different personality types or people in general that could probably relate to that. Just look at, so we'll talk about my wife. She's a full-time mom, and she is momming hard every single day. That is her full focus. We have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. We're at home all the time because of COVID. We're doing virtual kindergarten, and her daily everything is those two kids, right? But if you think about it, there's no balance there. There's and so it could be for a full-time mom, it could be for a military officer, it could be for an entrepreneur, a business owner. It relates to everybody. And I think there's so many people that get into that funk, to get into that routine, David and I included. And you have to be intentional about getting out of that through some of these processes.
Stu, you can particularly relate with the no friends thing, right, Stu?
So for Mary, for the two of you, I am on the hunt. So every podcast episode that we have, I'm on the hunt for a new best friend.
Right.
So if either of you two are interested in filling out an application for this new best friend status, let's talk afterwards. Okay.
Hey, here's the thing.
Mary is a great friend. I wouldn't count on me to be a great friend.
Well, let me tell you, ladies, some insight. There have been literally 0 applicants. And we've been doing this show for over a year, or I guess a year now, and he's still on the search. So that tells you everything you need to know.
Hey, I'm just looking for the perfect person. He or she is out there. All right.
Hang in there.
Now, Mary, was your experience similar? Like, were you, and with the, what Stu just said, I think it's so important, but were you kind of seeing some of that imbalance, some of the, some of the same struggles?
No, it drives me nuts a little bit. I am very
most balanced person on earth.
I'm very naturally balanced. I sort of have this like shift in my brain. If one thing is getting too much focus, I just automatically like spread out my efforts into other areas. But I never knew that that would benefit me until Enter Boldly and Co. because I can sort of be a regulator of the balance component of all of it. Things seem very clear to me when things are unbalanced.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's a huge blessing.
Yeah. I've literally never met somebody who is just as whole as Mary is. Like, I don't know how to express it any other way. She's just always doing enough of everything, and it makes her great. Like, she's always thoughtful about what she's feeding her brain and body, and that she's moving her body, and that she's spending the right time with family, and that she's giving to friends, and that she's, focused on career and boldly. And it's just like, it's amazing how she does it. So
I love you, Nina.
That's awesome. Well, some of the things so I have my notebook here, of all my notes from all the stuff that I've taken, through some of the course so far. And
yeah.
something that hit me pretty hard, that you kind of talk about is just this idea that the brain isn't really physically made to multitask. And, for those of us in the military, we are ingrained to multitask. Like pilots, we are told that we have to multitask all the time, although we have a co-pilot or we have a wingman or whatever else. And people like pride themselves on how much we can complete by multitasking. But I think you're right. Like, I don't think the brain is physically possibly able to do multitasking well. And so,
Yeah.
I'd like to kind of get into that a little bit, because again, we need to teach David how to.
Well, when you think about multitasking, so you're right. There is this like reward that, oh, I'm such, you bring to interviews, like, I'm a great multitasker. Like, I'd be like, that's terrible. I mean, now that's how I think about it. I did not once think about it that way. But as I was doing my research for, creating the company and what would we be coaching on and developing and things like that, I read a lot about the science and psychology behind multitasking. And essentially, multitasking is how well are you at handling distraction? So, that can be great. But the thing is, our company is focused on how do we make somebody take the most effective, productive action in their lives and in their business. And so if you're good at handling distraction, that's great. But then how great are you at completing the 5 things you just started? So for us, the idea is we have to be disciplined enough to know when to fight off distraction and not get excited by it and allow it to come in. So I think it's just important for business owners to not, at a macro level, not chase every shiny object, right? And at a micro level in your day, to not be distracted by things like phone notifications and emails coming in when you have a task at hand. So what happens is the brain, you get onto this other task, and in order to resume the task you started, you have to backtrack. So inherently, it's unproductive because you're moving backwards in a task and often not finishing it.
What does that really look like, Mary? Like, what, for the action taker, what does that really look like to get rid of these distractions, and kind of be able to focus more on one task at a time?
Well, what we teach on is, if you're able, shutting off all distraction, doing heads down work, perhaps with a timer, and really honing in on that one thing that you have to be really into. Now, there are times of day where there might be a lot of distractions around you, whether it's at the workplace, at home, wherever. And that's where you would plan on doing your menial tasks that don't really require your brain, and you can multitask during that period of time. So, I mean, that's for me, we call, we do our green, yellow, and red zones. We call them. Our green zone is when we're most productive and creative in the day. And our red zone is when we are fried or distracted and cannot. And that's when we encourage people to do those menial tasks that perhaps you could do 3 at once and get done.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about that too is the fact that it's not just, a lot of times I think we get trapped in productivity and planners and writing things down, and it becomes very ritualistic. But what you guys have done is effectively you've broken it down to the intentionality of understanding your own time cycles of when you're most effective, ensuring that you identify those, and then arranging, your schedule around those, or your tasks around those things, and all the aspects of it, right? It's a very well thought out, holistic approach to life and intentionality, which is something that, I think is huge, is no kidding. Like you can't, when I'm sitting here looking at my, my Boldly planner, and just to get into the planner part of it, you got to get through, page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of reading and interactive goal setting and planning before you even get to the part where you're writing down, like, okay, my to-do list today is this. There's skill sets that you're developing. And I think that's awesome that, a lot of times it's lost on a lot of people. I'm this way. I buy a planner or a notebook. I have like 18 of these laying around. I start filling them out and I feel like I've accomplished something. And you really realize I'm so reactive in my life that I'm not really accomplishing anything. I'm
Yeah.
just being busy.
Yeah.
And that's not productive. And I love how this program really forces you to be intentional with all these aspects, not just the wellness wheel, but setting goals, planning your time, writing it down, where you write it, how you write it, brain dumping. All those things are just, the intentionality of it is so awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, we spent years researching information about basically how to be both productive and how to be well. And, I knew after like my time in the corporate world where I was like, I'm not well. I seem to be very productive, but I'm missing the other piece. And so we researched the both of those things, and they had to go together. And we found out that they overwhelmingly do go together. And the wellness piece must exist. Otherwise, your achievement is leveled, no matter how capable you are. So I think a lot of times for me, I see wellness as it is still very hard for me to not just want to do work all the time. My brain is just so focused on achievement and being competitive, and I love working. Maybe that makes me a total nerd, but I love working. But I have to remember, like, since that's my driver, I have to remember I have to be well if I want to skyrocket further. So yeah, and the biggest thing with the planner, our company started with the planner. That was like the crux of our business. And then we developed it out into a system, a productivity and planning system for businesses that includes the planner as just a small tool. But the biggest thing with our productivity planner is, to me, it's not the planner, it's the methodology. It's, David, what you were talking about is that you have to be somewhat knowledgeable and educated about why the planner is the way it is, because there's science and research and psychology behind it that means something. And it's not just a to-do list,
Well, it's a mindset shift. It's a
Yeah.
complete mindset shift. And it has been for me for sure. And I think David and I are both similar in the respect of, we love to work, we love to accomplish things. We love to work competitive. We want to, be the best. And, and this mindset shift of putting these controls in place, and almost like less is more, that, I'm now trying to constrict myself to checking email 3 times a day and only replying in a certain period of the day when I'm like in that yellow zone or the green or the red zone,
And you
right?
have to ask yourself, right? Because your brain, it wants
I want to
look
email all day
the
long.
time, right?
Yeah.
But you have to ask yourself logically, because that's an emotional response, right? And the logical, Mary, how does it go? We're all emotional beings who have the capability of being logical. So it's like, right, that's like our natural, like we are emotional, we want to get involved in email and respond and react and get excited by it and whatever. But the harder part is having that discipline to say, this doesn't serve me and my goals and my business, which I know because I've defined them very clearly. And you also have to go back to, did I miss anything? By only doing this 3 times a day, did I ever really miss anything? Did anything ever figuratively blow up because I wasn't on email 24/7? And the answer will always be no.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. And
maybe once in a while you get something that gets a
yeah.
little out of control, but
And just taking some of those steps of removing notifications from your phone and doing just the email, the time blocking.
yeah.
And I also want to kind of ask you guys about just this idea of taking a break, taking a rest, because you guys talk about that a lot in your plan, is taking breaks, taking a day off, maybe even taking like a week off if you have the ability to do that. And how does that impact you in a positive way to really be more effective with your time and efficient?
Ooh, I love this. Let's talk forever.
Yeah.
So, I look at the brain as a muscle. And so you have brain strength just as your body and muscles have strength. So I always think like, this is how the idea of brain rest came about. So, I mean, one, there's a billion pieces of information out there that say your brain needs to rest, right? And we know things like meditation and mindfulness and prayer and right, all these other things are good because it gives our brain a chance to take a break, right? And how this actually came about was, I remember I was on a contract out in Seattle working way too much, and I went on my computer to save a file. And for some reason, when I had to save the file, I had to like know the exact location when I was saving it. I don't know, it was like old computer or something. I don't understand why, or maybe I was just out of it, but I could not remember where I was saving the file. And I couldn't, for some reason, just drag it into the folder I needed to. Anyhow, I tried to save the file like 30 times in a row, and I couldn't remember every single time where it was going. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, what's wrong with me? My brain cannot work. And I called my mom, and she has her doctorate in molecular biology and is just a smart person. Like can't have like normal conversations with people because she wants to talk about like atoms and like stuff like that. And
They say that a lot about me too.
Yeah.
No, nobody once ever said that one time.
Could be your best friends too.
Yes.
So I remember I called home and I'm like, Mom, why can't I save this file? Something is wrong with my brain. And she goes, oh, Nina, it's just so tired. And I was like, what? Like so easy, right? Like, so she could have given me the most complex answer ever. And she was like, it's just tired, Nina. It's telling you it needs a break. And I had never thought about my brain being so separate and its own thing before. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so the analogy that I give now is, imagine going to the gym and saying, I'm just going to work out my biceps today. And I'm going to lift weights all day long just for my biceps. And you'd be like, I mean, we know what would happen. Your muscles would totally fatigue and you would be recovering for how long? But that's what we do with our brains all day. And what makes it worse is the time that we live in and the culture that we live in, where it's constant notifications, constant distraction, constant. So we wake up and our brain is thinking and working, and we go to bed with screens thinking and working. And when we think we're sleeping, our brain is still thinking and working. So it's tired. It's just real tired. So the research points to that our brain needs those breaks, and it makes us stronger. It makes our work better. It makes our ability to focus and be creative better. And so we encourage in our coaching and program and through our planner that, brain breaks are a constant thing. It's not once a week, once a month, once a year. It's every day, just little bits throughout the day.
That's a huge mindset shift, I think, for a lot of people, especially, military folks that are just so used to go. And I don't want to detract at all. We can talk offline. You guys can explain what a gym is to Stu. I think you threw him off on that whole thing, like working out and what that means. So, but I don't want to bore our listeners with an explanation of what I'm sure they know a gym is. But
Dude,
that
I'm
whole
a Peloton master.
yeah,
I'm
you
a
are.
Peloton master. I crushed Peloton last year.
Yeah, no, you did. You did crush the Peloton last year. Congratulations. But I think that there's, and it, one thing that I can't, as I'm, listening to both of you speak, one thing that just keeps hitting me is how this process has clearly been embraced by both of you. And it inundates I imagine every part of your life. But what I see, like I look at both of you and I see your background, the wall I'm focusing on both of you, very clean, organized. The books are a certain way, Mary, there's no clutter. There's no, like, there's bins, and everything has its place. Everything either has its place or is intentionally put away to send a message. And the message is not lost on me, just visually as I look at both of you. Right. And I think that just shows, and you're big on decluttering your workspace and all these things that I'm not, but also that it's a lifestyle and it's a mindset change, and the magic behind it, the key, what I love is that when you do it, you're more productive. You become closer to the person that you want to be and that you think you're becoming by just putting all the hours and the effort and the brain tired and all that stuff, and you're not getting any further. I know I feel this way all the time. And in reality, it's stepping back, assessing, being organized, implementing a program like you highlighted. And then the other stuff just kind of, it doesn't just happen as work, but it falls in the right place and you're more productive. And I think that's you guys have, that's your superpower, right? You've hit on a magic potion. I think it's awesome. It's super empowering. So kudos to you on that. I think that's great. And in addition to that, I'm just kind of curious, like you have this thing going, the business I'm imagining is crushing it. You guys are doing awesome. What's next? Like, what do you see as you project out? You use the words, I want to skyrocket. What is skyrocket for you guys right now?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for us, our goal is to get out to as many business owners as possible. So we do how we share our message and what we do and how we help people is either through one-on-one coaching and consulting and going into their business and working with them on all these tools together, or we do it in group and right now virtual workshops. And I don't know, when you look at in our planner and we have on the wellbeing wheel, we have purpose and passion. To me, boldly is a purpose and a passion. It's not my professional growth. It's not that category. So to me, I'm it is our mission to just get in front of as many people as we can, because we just so deeply believe in this and we see how much it can help. And, there's just so many people out there that are, I want to achieve these dreams. I have these goals, but they have this is going to sound a little harsh. They have no chance. at actually accomplishing them because no one's given them the tools on how to understand strategy and thought and effective action. And, so it's like you have very capable people who can't make it because they don't have this stuff in front of them.
I know you want to say something, David. You can go ahead and say something.
Oh, I actually thought Mary was going to say something. I'm sorry. She leaned forward and I was like, oh, here it comes.
Oh, no, I was just nodding.
Gotcha. No, I think that's awesome. I love what you said that what your vision for the future is part of your, is part of your purpose and passion. It's not necessarily part of the growth. And that's something that Stu and I have been really, these last 2 weeks have been very deep, long conversations about what we really want our businesses to look like, what we want them to be, because of the purpose and the passion part of it, and the things that are important to us. The leadership and the giving are things that are like for us, if there's anything, it's leadership and giving. Those are the two things. And so how do you frame businesses around that to honor that purpose and that vision and that passion, and not lose yourself in the businesses themselves?
Yeah. And like for my husband and I, we are also real estate investors. And I've like Boldly has had to take a back seat at times because real estate investing is not necessarily, it's for my professional growth, but it's not my purpose and passion, but it is a means for me to be able to pursue my passion with Boldly all the time, right? Or to be able to have time to like the financial freedom so I can spend more time in my community or give more to my community. So yeah.
No, it's huge.
Here's just kind of a question that popped into my brain. Cause I feel that David and I have the similar passion of serving and helping and educating and mentoring and giving. And, if your purpose and passion is to get in front of every single business owner out there, right? How do you do that with still maintaining and preaching this system and process? Like, how do you get in front of every single business person out there and one-on-one coaching and all these webinars and programs, but still have that balanced lifestyle? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. So first off, we have to remember that each of our goals are arbitrary, right? Like we make them for ourselves. So I might say, I want to get in front of, as many people as possible, but in accordance with our method, that means just doing as best as I can with the time that I have. So it does mean like when I think about my week, I'm putting in meal prep, movement, time with my husband, time with my kids. Those things actually go in first. So those have to exist first, I know. And then the rest is let's make the best use of that remaining time that I have. So I don't know. That's how we do it. Mary is just, she just always
crushes it all the time.
Crushes it all the time. I don't know how she does.
No, but that to your point, it's we are not going to spend 100 hours a week, chasing the goal every single week. We definitely have our weeks that are front loaded, with our goals, but we definitely want to take a smooth path because we don't want to burn ourselves out. And we understand how easy it can be to do that.
And I think too, another thing that Mary and I focus on a lot is spending more time thinking and less time like doing, if that makes sense. Like,
love it.
Not like we're thinking like, what is the most effective way to do A, B, and C? So it's like, okay, I'm not just going to go out and chase every business. I'm going to be extremely thoughtful about my connections and my relationships and how do I get introductions? And, it's very purposeful with what we do.
I actually just started implementing that into my morning routine is a 30-minute like time blocked on my calendar, a plan and think
Yeah.
schedule block. And I just started reading this book, The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. It's a
That's a
phenomenal
great
book.
title.
I highly recommend it because he talks a lot about it is just he calls it thinking time.
Mhm.
And you just pose yourself a question. You shut everything down, put a timer on with a pen and paper or notebook or whatever, and just ask yourself a question that has to do with your business or anything going on in your life. And then just brain dump, just like you're talking about brain dumping, on the planner, brain dump, thinking
Yeah.
time only. And I've just started implementing, and like there's some goodness in this notebook during my thinking time.
Never, man. You stole that. That's probably in the notes section of the book, and you just took a photocopy and like pasted it in and said, "Oh yeah, look at all these notes I took." You have blank sheets every morning when you get your thinking time going. No, I think that's awesome because one thing that has been absolutely just from a mindset. Some of the folks that you look at that are just so influential, like from the military, General Mattis is one, or Admiral Stavridis are two like 4 stars that, and both of them are like, hey, what I do is I read. You look at uh, Warren Buffett, you
Yeah.
look at Mark Cuban, you look at these people in their industries that are like are the pinnacle, and almost all of them exclusively spend multiple hours a day in books. I mean, Admiral Stavridis wrote a book about books he's read. It's like, I mean, and the dude has like a library of 5,000
Just
books,
tell you
right?
about all these books.
Oh, it's unbelievable. But the book itself, it was called the Leader's Bookshelf, I think it was called. And it was really cool. But the point to that is, I think you're hitting on it too. Is that that mindset in choosing to sit down and think, and Stu like holding me accountable to, hey, dude, like spend some time thinking,
Yeah.
and then the things you come up with, and I imagine when you put two minds together, like when you two get together and share some of the thoughts that you've done your own deep thinking. I mean, it's crazy the potential and the possibilities that come out of that.
Well, and I want
Really
to I
cool.
want to say to you guys, when you do that think time, that is a form of brain rest. So, Stu, if you're like, wow, I'm getting all this out of here. Yeah, because you're not distracted. You're not doing 49 things at once. That's your, block time, and you're guarding it and you're disciplined to it. And like your brain just has to think of one thing. And so it does it, like all of a sudden you're like, I never knew I even had that idea. I didn't even know my brain could think like that.
Yeah. I find another block of time where I find my brain just running and stirring is when I'm exercising. If I'm just like running outside or, riding a bike or something like that, my brain starts running and I'll come up with all these ideas. And a lot of times I'm like, I got to write this stuff down. If I have my phone with me, I'll kind of write it down like in my
Yeah.
notes or something like that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
They do
that's a
say
good.
move the body, change the mind,
I
right?
like that.
Like when you move the body, you change the mind. So yeah,
It's good
very
stuff.
good.
Yeah, we could be here for hours. You guys
Yeah.
are firing me up. I love this conversation. How do folks find you? How do they continue this, the conversation through, your videos, reading, coaching, whatever it is? What are the resources, if you could
Yeah.
let our listeners know?
Yeah, absolutely. They should go to our website. It's www.boldly, BOLDLY, and co.com. And they can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Boldly and Co. So
Awesome.
all of our stuff is there. We have tons of I think really cute, good looking products, but we also have, more importantly, like coaching and workshops and all kinds of things that I think, people should take the chance on for themselves, because I can promise you they work and they help and they'll be great. So
That's great.
If there's any other, last minute requests or advice or anything like that, what would you give to our audience, our listeners?
ooh, Mary, you go first. I'm going to think about it.
Advice to the audience.
Yeah.
You know,
Advice or requests, if there's something that they could do, for the two of you?
Well,
Or?
I don't know about all of you, but 2020 was a very, very trying year in my life.
Yeah,
You're so sweet about it.
it's tough.
Trying. It was
very trying. And so I would say the derailment that happened of 2020 doesn't have to perpetuate, and that there's always time to turn it around. I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I gained 30 pounds, whatever, I can't get up back on track. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do with my career. We'll plan it next year, and it's my thing is, let's do it now. Let's get back on track now. It's the perfect time. It's the new year. It's the dead of winter anyway here in Wisconsin. What better to do than to
what else do you have to do?
Plan your life and get it back on track.
I mean, you could like drink a bunch of beer and eat brats and cheese and stuff like that, but let's not go that direction.
Yeah. Only on the weekend, right?
Yeah. I love it. It's good stuff.
What would I suggest? I would suggest two things. The first thing is to give yourself some grace. I think a lot of us in our heads beat ourselves up over not doing enough and not accomplishing more. And I would say, just calm down, give yourself a little grace. You're human. And as Mary said, then vow to take action and actually do take action. The other thing that I would suggest that I believe is wholly unproductive is to stop comparing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other businesses, other people that seem to have made it, and yet you haven't yet. Or I think we are each absolutely our own individual people with our own individual histories and mindsets and families and all these things that have been stacked either against us or in our favor in our lives. And we need to live our life, true to ourselves, and to stop comparing because somebody else's life is just not yours.
That's awesome. That's awesome advice from both of you. I think, our listeners, just listen to the last 3 minutes. I think just that in and of itself are some serious gems. Take action, give yourself grace, don't compare. I think those are things that are huge. And I love, Mary, a lot of times I think people become overwhelmed where they have gotten themselves, and then you can dig out of it, right? You got yourself there. You can definitely get back to where you want to be, have that vision, put it in your planner, address it, backwards plan from where you want to be, and take action and get it. So awesome advice. Thank you. This was really fun. This did not at all disappoint, not even a tiny bit. We've been really excited about having you two on the show, and just been pumped about the conversation that we knew it was going to end, and you guys have delivered in spades. You're awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah,
one last question. Can the movement part of it, Stu's been trying to break through 10 push-ups for 2 years now. You really just to get 10 in a row has been a block for him. Can this help?
Yeah, use those goal setting. You need 30-day, get to 7, 6 months, get to 8.
Okay. All right. That's good. Well, we're gonna come and eat some Wisconsin sausage and cheese whenever we're allowed to travel again and come to Wisconsin and check on our business and properties. We're gonna go enjoy some fellowship with you two ladies. And
nice.
I so overwhelmed with what this has done for me personally, and thank you two so much. And I hope our listeners reach out to you, jump on board, your systems and processes, and I think it's a life-changing type of thing here. So thank you. For those listeners, hey, go talk to Mary and Nina, get on board. It will change your life. Go and subscribe to our podcast. Give me some 5-star reviews. David 1, Nina and Mary 10. And most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
Make it a great day. See ya.